Hello, ladies and gentlemen, viewers of the African television, and welcome to yet another edition of Health Update on Vision Cat Television. Health Update is your weekly health bilingual program where we bring topics concerning your health. We bring medical doctors or even other experts with whom we can try to expound on these topics. And today we are talking about street medication. Yes, you heard right. We're talking about street drugs, its prevalence in Cameroon, why it is so difficult to eradicate. We will also try to establish the difference that exists between street medication and those found in our pharmacies at a time when official figures estimate that over 50% of Cameroonians contribute or consume street medication. And to do so, we will be receiving a pharmacist. He's actually the vice president of the National Order of Pharmacists in Cameroon. His name is Dr. Edward Nga, but before we meet him, let's go to Douala and see Zakiatou Amadou. She's reporting about thousands of street drugs seized by the Navy in Douala. They were concealed in some sachets of detergent. Zakiatou, are you with us?
The boxes of seized contraband medicines were presented to officials of the Regional Delegation of Public Health for the Littoral on Wednesday, the 5th of June 2024. There were close to 30,000 boxes sealed in 29 packages of the illegal drugs. According to the military, Dr. Okopetis, the contraband medicine include antibiotics, contraceptives, calcium, antispasmodics, among others, are coming from abroad.
So we are working to identify all the origins, but they are not made in Cameroon, they are coming from abroad.
Dr. Pettis explains that the seized contraband medicines will be destroyed.
After the technical evaluations made by the team of the public health, the drug will be destroyed by the committee under the supervision of the governor of the littoral regions.
The latest seizure of illegal medicines comes barely a few weeks after custom officers at the Douala International Airport seized cocaine worth over 1 billion CFA francs. It is part of a special operation aimed at fighting illegal drugs trafficking in Cameroon.
Welcome back. As I told you at the very beginning of this program, today we are receiving a pharmacist in the person of Dr. Edward Nga. With him, we will try to expound on the topic street medication. Good morning, doctor, and welcome to our set.
Thank you.
How are you doing this Saturday morning?
Okay.
Very well. We'll dive straight into the subject matter. We just watched a report about street medication seized in the chief town of the littoral region, that is Douala, by the Navy. They are in thousands. What is your appraisal about this report that we just saw from Zakiatou Amadou?
Well, this is what is happening not only in Cameroon but the world over. The proliferation of street medication and illicit medication is on the increase.
Now we have set the ball rolling. Can you tell us in clear terms for the mere Cameroonian to understand what are street medications?
Well, before I tell you about what street medication is, let me first tell you what the right medication is. Because for you to understand what is a counterfeit, you have to know what the original looks like. Now, when we talk about good medication, good medicines are those that are prepared in an approved environment under current good manufacturing practices. They are transported through good transport practices, and they are stored under good storage practices. They are taken to the last mile to the patient and prescribed by an authorized and qualified prescriber and taken correctly to be able to obtain the desired health outcome. With street medication, you will realize that sometimes the medication is not correctly prepared. Sometimes it is correctly prepared, but it is transported wrongly and stored inadequately, and sometimes inadequately prescribed by a wrong person or somebody that is not licensed to do so. And sometimes the person that is taking it, because they will not receive the right instructions, they will not also take it correctly. And that is what happens when people patronize this street medication, or what we call roadside medication. And talking about street medication, there is also a small aspect, a positive aspect of street medication, which talks about the dispensing of medication in the street to many people because of an outbreak of maybe a disease. This one happens when there is shortage in medical facilities, and health personnel have to reach out and meet the people right there in the street. That is also called street medication.
So now when you talk about wrong preparation in the medications, what exactly do you mean?
Wrong preparation in that we have discovered in the course of analyzing medication that some of these things that are labeled or purporting to be medication are not containing what is labeled on them. And it is not as if they disappeared on the way. It is because the preparation was intended to be so. We have seen medication that is written on it 500 milligrams, and on analysis you will realize that it has maybe 50 milligrams, 100 milligrams. So we call those substandard medication, and sometimes you don't even have an active ingredient in them. That is how wrong preparation is done, and most of those preparations are done in wrong sites. You remember when I talk about good medication, I said it has to be prepared under current good manufacturing practices. But these ones, sometimes people just mount a plant behind their house and they start fabricating medications there.
But are street medications only found with the definition that you gave, prepared under the right conditions, or street medications prepared under the wrong conditions, transported in the wrong conditions, preserved in the wrong condition? Can we say that street medications are found only in the streets? In our pharmacies, can we not get street, in quote, medications? That is, medications that are prepared in the wrong way, transported in the wrong way, and preserved in the wrong way.
If you find that, then it will be that the person involved is also not is not doing the right thing, because medication that is found in the pharmacy is supposing to be medication that passes through the right channels, and internationally there are the right channels that you can have medication come into your premise. So when you have medication that comes into your premise through wrong channels, that can happen. But in other areas too, we have very smart counterfeiters who may, in one way or the other, infiltrate these right channels, but it is very rare to find that.
Very well. The medications found on the streets, especially in Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé, are in a variety. We can find anti-malarial drugs, we can find anti-inflammatory, we can find robs, we can find every sort of medicine on the streets in Cameroon. What are the risks of these medications?
The risk of street medication or roadside medication are multifaceted. They stem from physical effects to economic effects to biological effects. Physical effects, you will realize and agree with me, or if you check statistics, you will realize that the number of dialysis centers are increasing. The number of people coming down with diseases like kidney damages are increasing. Why is this so? Because people are buying this medication from roadsides, which are not controlled. Because when medication comes into the country, normally it is supposed to, the quality of that medication is supposed to be controlled. But this roadside medication, there is no lab that is controlling them. And some of them, because they are prepared by people who are not knowledgeable enough, sometimes they add things into the medicines that cause a lot of harm to the human body. That is physically, you will see that. Economically, when you take medication that is not the right one, take for instance like take an anti-malaria. You are taking an anti-malaria whose quality has not been controlled. And interestingly, we have used simple quality control methods like the mini-lab test and other physicochemical tests, and we realized that some of these medications, even though it's written on it anti-malaria and is labeled with the names of the well-known anti-malarias like Quaterm, Malacure, we have realized that there are some of them that contain zero active ingredients. That means you are taking it and thinking that you are taking a malaria treatment, and there's
Meanwhile, you're
nothing
taking
inside.
powder.
Maybe cassava or corn flour or whatever,
Unfortunate.
or chalk that have just been
Ground.
and packaged like that. The other economic effect is that some of these medications, they don't actually have enough active ingredients, and so when you take it, instead of your condition improving,
it's getting worse.
It is deteriorating day by day. Before you know it and want to take a step now to go to the hospital where you believe that your situation can be handled, when you get there, the situation is already bad in such a way that they will need medication of higher strength, more expensive, to be able to treat your situation. If at all, you will be lucky to be treated. And so you end up spending more on something that you will have handled if you went to the right place at the first instance.
Well, now on our screen, the theme is quite well written. Médicaments de la rue, quels sont les facteurs déterminants de la consommation? What would you say are the determining factors of the consumption of street medication?
Well, before I get to that, I have not talked about the biological effect of street medication, and it's very important that I say it here before I go ahead.
Very well.
There is an increase in drug resistance, especially antibiotics. And the reason is that some of the antibiotics that you see on the street, because of post-storage, even if they came in with having the right quantity amount of active ingredients, they depreciate very fast. And then the second thing is that some of them, as you are seeing, like I mentioned before, they are not having the right amount of the active ingredient. We have seen artemether lumefantrine, which is a drug against malaria, which is having only artemether. There is no lumefantrine inside. We have seen drugs like amoxicillin, which is an antibiotic, is written on it 500 milligrams,
and you find
and inside you are seeing 100 milligrams. What is that? What that translates to is that when you take it, you expose the causative agent of the sickness, maybe the microbe or the microbe, to a sublethal dose of the medication.
And then it becomes stronger.
And then it now intend, because they are also very wise, they will now develop a survival mechanism, which we call resistance. And when it develops this survival mechanism, your situation will be getting worse. That very medication that you took, even if you double the dose, it will not be able to handle your situation. It will therefore mean that they will now have to do maybe tests like culture sensitivity to be able to now get a drug that can be able to handle your situation adequately. And at that level, the cost of care is tripled or even quadrupled. It becomes more expensive. And if that is not handled, that microbe develops resistance to these antibiotics, meaning that people who fall down with this same condition, because they have been infected by this very microorganism that have developed resistance, many of them will end up dying. Because they may not even, they may continue buying drugs from the roadside, thinking that they are helping themselves, and they end up dying.
Now
let's coming to your other question. Yes, can I have the question again?
The question right on our screens, médicaments de la rue, quels sont les facteurs déterminants de la consommation? What are the factors that determine consumption of street drugs? What is pushing people to go towards street drugs? Is it poverty? Is it the fact that in the hospitals it's quite expensive and that there is no time? Is it the fact that they actually find remedy in the streets?
Sincerely speaking, what is pushing people to roadside medication is ignorance. I can say 70% of it is ignorance. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of the fact that most of the time what you go in for thinking that it is cheap ends up not being cheap, because it doesn't give you the desired health outcome. Secondly, a number of people end up having major organ damages from some of these roadside medication. Recently, I think there was a cough syrup. You might have heard of the cough syrup that killed a number of children, and the Minister of Public Health banned it. When you look at the sources, you trace it all, it goes down to the roadside medication. And what was it in the syrup that killed the children? It was just a chemical that is not supposed to be in that syrup at that concentration, and it ended up destroying the kidneys of these
children involved.
Adults have taken also some medications. Like recently, we had a syrup also that adults were taking, and it also led to serious kidney damages, and a number of people died. I think the minister also issued a communique banning the sale of that medication in the country. So that is one. Number two, there is this false impression that roadside medication is cheap. It is not cheap. Why? Because most of the time what you buy from there is not what is written on that medication. It's either substandard, it is falsified, or it's counterfeit, and it doesn't give you what you are desiring. The second thing is that economically, people are like they are poor. Yes, even though they are poor, but I think the government of Cameroon is doing a lot in the area of helping people as far as treatment of diseases is concerned, because most of our government institutions, their rates are low enough, lower than what you think you go and get from the street.
So now, as from the 1st of July 2024, according to a recent communique by the National Order of Medical Doctors, in pharmacies, people will no longer be sold medication without prescription. Is this not favoring the expansion of street medication? Because on the streets, I'll be able to get out there and then I buy Malacu, I buy whatever it is. Meanwhile, I will not have a prescription. Nobody will ask me for one. But if I go to the pharmacies, I'll be asked a prescription. Is this measure not in a bid to favor street medications?
That is a technical issue. It's highly technical, and I want to first say that decision needed a lot of
consultation.
Consultation, interdisciplinary consultation between the various stakeholders. When we talk about medication with prescription, there is in pharmacy practice we have what is known as over-the-counter medication.
Of course,
you do not need a prescription to buy that. Secondly, you do not have medical doctors everywhere to be able to prescribe to all patients. We have even people who are authorized to prescribe who are not medical doctors.
I actually was getting there because in villages like the famous Salapumbe and Mulundu, which people have been talking about recently, there are no pharmacies there. We don't have pharmacies that are put in place so that people can go get their medications. How do they cope? How do these people cope in our villages?
Following the AMA, that's the AMA Alta Convention by the World Health Organization in 1978. There was this famous slogan, Health for All, by the year 2000. And following that convention, it was intended that healthcare would be brought closer to the population by way of placing at least a health facility within maybe 5 kilometers. 5 to 10 kilometers. And all villages, I will appreciate what the government of Cameroon have done in that light, in that almost all villages are having health facilities. Besides that, there are private health facilities or confectionaries. Like you have the Baptists, they have health centers in most of those hard to reach villages. You have the Presbyterian, you have the Catholics. They have health centers in all these places. Now, what we are saying here is, if the population understands the dangers of roadside medication, they will patronize these health facilities in those villages. It will be better for you to trek 2 kilometers and get to a government health center or a private health center, a church health center, where you can get medication prescribed by a right person, than to turn beside your house and buy it from somebody who is calling himself a doctor in the quarter.
Why do these street medications continue to rise? Why does it continue to? Why does the consumption continue to be expatiated in the different parts of the town, notwithstanding the fight that government is taking against these drugs? And what do you think can be done by the government in that light?
The proliferation of roadside medication, especially in a country like ours, is there are a number of reasons why this thing is, I call it a monster, is continuously surviving in our midst despite the fight. One of it is the fact that we have a border that is so vast and it is so porous. So medications come into the country from almost every angle, from the north to the south. You have routes that are leaving the country. Medicines come through those routes. The second thing is that corruption is not left out. Yes, because even though some of these medications come through places that ought to have been stopped, sometimes they will still realize that they pass. So those are some of the things that are causing the proliferation of this roadside medication. But lastly, and very important, is the fact that we do not have a strong regulatory body. That means the government policy has to be strengthened. Yes, whereby we should have a strong regulatory body
in charge only
of drugs, like we have the FDA in the US, we have NAFDAC in Nigeria. Yes, we should have such a body. The Ministry of Public Health is there, yes, but we need such a body that will focus on these drugs, just like FECAFOOT is focusing on football. Meanwhile, we still have the Minister of
Sports and Physical Education.
Sport. But if you ask me, why are we having FECAFOOT and the Ministry of Youth and Sport? It is just to strengthen that domain.
The fact that the domain itself should have a leader.
We need strongly a drug regulatory body that will focus on this fight. The ministry alone is not enough.
Thank you, Doctor. I think that we have successfully expounded on this topic and that we have cleared Cameroonians of all doubt. If not, do you have any word for the end?
I think I would just want to appreciate what you people are doing in your service to educate the masses against this menace that has come to cause a lot of havoc to our population. I pray that this effort and the fact that the government will be able to listen to some of these worries and advices and put in place a better mechanism to fight against roadside medication. I'm sure we are going to come out of it.
Fingers are crossed that government will listen to us and take considerable measures so as to fight against the proliferation of street medications. Juste derrière, mesdames et messieurs, retrouvons Valérie Naesomba cette semaine encore et nous revient avec les astuces de la semaine.
Le stress est une mise en alerte du corps face à une situation que l'organisme perçoit comme une agression. Pour éviter que le stress ne prenne le dessus sur votre vie, il est important d'apprendre à le gérer. Nous vous proposons quelques petits ajustements quotidiens qui peuvent vous aider à prendre du recul. Un sommeil de qualité. Il est important d'avoir une bonne nuit de sommeil car si vous êtes fatigué, votre organisme se met en alerte. Faire du sport pour se relaxer. Avoir une activité physique régulière va vous aider à mieux gérer le stress. Nous vous proposons de pratiquer le yoga, la course et la boxe. Adopter une alimentation anti-stress. Une alimentation variée et équilibrée est la clé de la santé mentale. Nous vous recommandons pour cela d'adopter des aliments riches en oméga 3. Nous vous conseillons également le chocolat noir qui est un aliment adéquat pour lutter contre le stress. Évitez les boissons telles que le café, l'alcool, le thé et même les boissons énergisantes et sucrées car bien qu'ayant un côté réconfortant et stimulant, ces boissons sont néfastes, mais surtout augmentent le stress. Pratiquez la méditation, la respiration pour bien gérer le stress. Face à un pic de stress, pensez à contrôler votre respiration avec des exercices simples et de la méditation qui peuvent vous calmer rapidement. Parler des situations de stress à des amis et à son entourage et se confier peut s'avérer positif dans votre combat contre le stress. Choisissez une personne de confiance capable d'écouter et d'être bienveillante pour vous aider à traverser une situation stressante. Adoptez une positive attitude. Il est judicieux de relativiser lorsqu'on se sent submergé par une situation. Dédramatiser et faire la différence entre les problèmes graves et les petits tracas du quotidien en étant optimiste. Faites-vous plaisir en créant un équilibre entre le travail et les loisirs. Prenez le temps de rire et de vous amuser car cela vous permettra d'éviter le stress. Pensez à consulter un professionnel de la santé si le stress gâche votre vie de manière persistante et que vous n'arrivez pas à le canaliser vous-même. Voilà qui met fin à notre astuce cette semaine. Prenons rendez-vous la semaine prochaine pour une nouvelle astuce.
Thank you, Valérie Naesomba. We will be hoping or even sure to try one or two of your tips this week, and we are expecting you again next week. And before we go, we have a new slot. The slot is Thank You Doctor, a doctor who gives us tips or even advice on how to go about our daily lives and to keep ourselves healthy. Let's listen to Dr. Tatsop Cyril Thibault on today's slot, Thank You Doctor.
bonjour à vous. Alors, si vous avez déjà plus de 40 ans, vous devez commencer à contrôler votre pression artérielle à la maison. Allez-y, achetez un sphygmomanomètre automatique qui va vous permettre comme ça de contrôler votre pression chaque matin à la maison. Ceci est très important pour éviter des éventuelles maladies cardiovasculaires tardives. Et pour vous qui avez des parents qui ont déjà plus de 65 ans, arrêtez de faire des cadeaux inutiles à ces parents. Achetez un sphygmomanomètre pour permettre à vos parents de contrôler la pression artérielle pour pouvoir détecter des maladies cardiovasculaires très tôt. C'était votre docteur. On dit merci docteur et à très bientôt.
Alors, merci, Doctor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being tuned right up to this moment of health update, while hoping that we were able to teach you one or two things and that you learned and kept one or two things for yourself, because access to information, or even information, is power. Information is strength. We are hoping to see you again next week. But however, do well to stay connected to our various social media handles on Facebook at Health Update Vision Cat Television, but also on YouTube. The page name is Ngwang Diana Joyce. Until next week, do stay glued to the rest of the programs of the African Television Vision Cat, because the best is yet to come. Good morning.